right, folks. Yishai Fleischer here, broadcasting from Judea, Israel. Thank you for joining me. In the aftermath of the elimination of arch-terrorist Yahya Sinwar, who was the head of Hamas in Gaza and was the mastermind behind the October 7th massacre, the question is, what's the future of Gaza? Now, my friend Jonathan Conricus was on Dan Abrams' show on Newsmax, but so was General David Petraeus. David Petraeus was the head of the CIA, and before that, a four-star general who served for 37 years in the U.S. Army, including being the head of U.S. Central Command, and also overseeing action in both Iraq and Afghanistan. David Petraeus understands insurgency. He understands jihadism. He understands the Middle East. And I wanted to play with you some of his words here on Newsmax, which I thought were great in most part, but there was one part which I disagreed with very strongly. So let's take a look at what General Petraeus has to say about the future of Gaza.
So General Petraeus, but the reality is Hamas is not going to just release the hostages and put down their weapons. And so from a strategic perspective, does this change the negotiation? Does this change the balance of power when it comes to that negotiation? Or is this really just going to be more of the same, do you think, for the short term?
Well, first of all, good to be with you, Dan. Jonathan, great to see you again. I think it actually makes it more difficult. You did have command, control, and communications after a fashion with Yahya Sinwar in charge of both the political wing and the military wing following the death of the political wing leader, of course, in Tehran some months ago. I'm not sure who negotiates now. I don't know who you talk to. Is there actually any central command control communications? Will his brother take over? Will he be able to establish control, given that the operational security that's required is so extreme? So I think this results in a more decentralized situation inside Gaza. I think, frankly, what really needs to happen is there needs to be a commitment by the prime minister to a political vision for the future of Gaza, which for the first time says, we're going to get Hamas out of this completely. We're going to establish security. We're going in and we're going to stay, not just conduct these raids.
All right. So first thing is, very smartly, General Petraeus pivots away from the idea of who do we negotiate with. He says, you got to get rid of Hamas altogether. There's nobody that you shouldn't be able to negotiate with anybody. You shouldn't have to deal with these bad guys, these haters. They're nobody to negotiate with. They got to be gotten rid of, and Israel's got to commit to staying there. And Israel's got to commit to a political vision for the future of Gaza. So I like that a lot. I like that he's basically pivoting away from who do we negotiate to get our hostages with to we're going to stay here and ensure that there's no jihadism and there's no Hamas in Gaza at the end of this war.
And then we're going to provide a better life for the Palestinian people. That will enable bringing in Palestinian security forces trained by the Americans in Jordan. Then Arab forces will come in, organized humanitarian assistance, reconstruction, restoration of basic services. You do it sequentially from north to south, a series of walled off gated communities, as we called them during the surge in Iraq, which worked in Fallujah, Ramadi, Baquba, Mosul. This is how we broke the back of al-Qaeda in Iraq and the Sunni insurgents, destroyed them in the end. Keep in mind, destruction means that they cannot reconstitute. And right now in Gaza, Hamas is able to reconstitute, albeit without the weapons that used to come through the Rafah crossing in the south and underneath the southern border between Gaza and the Sinai, which...
You got to be amazed at how much understanding General Petraeus has. But there was just one thing that I didn't like what he said. The rest I liked very much. He says, watch out, Hamas can reconstitute. Watch out, you got to make sure that they are done. You got to be there in these places. Israel's got to be in these places. You've got to control the Rafah crossing. You've got to control the Gaza Strip. The one thing I didn't like is when he said that there should be Palestinian police trained in Jordan by the Americans. That business has failed over and over again. That's the same Oslo model and the two-state solution, the creation of a PA. The PA is an anti-Semitic, pro-jihad organization that is just simply the other side of the coin of Hamas. They just do it with a suit and tie and with American funding. All right. And then, you say, well, you guys are going to create security around here. They don't create security. They teach anti-Semitism. They teach anti-Israelism. They call for jihad. They support, the PA supports the Hamas terrorists who are in jail, or the families of those who lost terrorists in a fight against Israel. And so the bottom line is that this idea that there's going to be some kind of PA police force trained in Jordan and is going to control Gaza, that's not going to happen. The rest of what General Petraeus says, I like very much. He says, listen, Israel's going to have to hold on to this piece of land. Israel is going to have to be the governor in that area and provide a better life. But what he doesn't add is that the better life is only for those Arabs who are pro-Israel and anti-jihad and want to coexist and live there as residents of Israel, as having some kind of status in Israel, but certainly being post-jihad, pro-Israel.
Israel rightly controls and should not give up. So I agree with Jonathan. Make that offer. I don't think it's going to be, there's no response going to come to that. I don't think overall you're going to have to go in and establish security. Without security, the future is just absolutely uncertain. And the political vision is lacking. And the future for the Palestinian people in Gaza is one of humanitarian catastrophe, frankly, at this point in time. And only if you do what I'm advocating here can you have a possibility of, again, Palestinians in Gaza, Israelis, Jews in particular, living side by side in peace. Without that, you have a festering wound that will require continued intervention and some continued casualties as that takes place. Hamas getting less and less capable, but still very numerous. So I think that's, Dan, where this should head. I'm not sure, frankly, that the political coalition in Jerusalem will allow that to happen, though.
All right, so very good points, which is like he's saying it gently, but I'll make it a little sharper, which is, Israel, you have to speak with clarity. You've got to create vision for the future of this region and the future of Gaza as well. I don't know if there's going to be a humanitarian crisis in Gaza, but it'll just be unsettled. And in order to settle these things, right, notice the double entendre of settlement. It's really resettlement of the Jewish people in Gaza, governance by the IDF, and then pro-Israel, non-jihad Arabs living in Israel as well-adjusted residents that have a future. That's a possibility. But in order to do that, you got to speak with clarity. And he kind of hints at it, that he doesn't think that the Israeli coalition in Jerusalem has the wherewithal right now, has the political ability to create such a vision. One of the things that can be argued is that from the get-go, Israel has not really articulated a vision for what the future of Gaza is going to be. And that's because people are, confused. Are we going to rule another people? Are we going to govern another people? And for some, that's very hard to swallow. But the fact is that all powers govern other peoples. All powers do that. Any major power in this region and around the world. If you're America, you govern all kinds of people. If you're Turkey, you govern all kinds of people. If you're Iran, you govern all kinds of people. And if you're Israel, you're going to govern peoples that are not necessarily part of your national group. And you're going to make sure that they're going to be good residents of your land. For example, look at loyal residents and happy, well-adjusted residents. Look, for example, at the Druze citizens that live mostly in the north of Israel. They're part of our fighting class. They're some of the generals in our Israeli army. In fact, the Druze general just fell in battle. And so they are very well respected and they're part of the body politic of Israel. But the prerequisite is they are pro-Israel. They are non-jihadists. They don't want to see Israel destroyed. They want to fight for Israel and they want to see Israel succeed. So General Petraeus says it right, except for that business about bringing in a PA security trained in Jordan by the Americans. That business has failed utterly. And I'm surprised that General Petraeus would talk about that, given that he understands successes and failures of the U.S. military. The creation of a PA security force has been an unquestionable failure. And so therefore, we really should not go back to that. Can there be Arabs in the Israeli police force? Absolutely. Can they be part of the, some kind of civilian guard that Israel establishes there, but under Israel? Can they be an Arabic speaking IDF military group, of course that could happen. But don't tell me that they're going to be a separate, ruled by some other sovereign other than Israel. That is a recipe for failure. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed. I thought that this was an important point to cover about Petraeus' vision. If you like what we're talking about here, please check out buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. It's an easy way to support our programming and our efforts and our team's efforts. And of course, support also the Jewish community of Hebron. That's where I work in my day job. The Jewish community of Hebron houses the tombs of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac, Rebecca, Jacob, and Leah. So please check out hebronfund.org to learn more about what we do there. And if you want to see us teaching Torah around the world, continuing to renovate the land of Israel, check out our fight at fightforisrael.org. God bless you, folks, wherever you are. Don't forget, the most important thing is to subscribe to this channel and be a part of it. And the most important thing is to continue to believe in Israeli strength and connect to the God of Israel. God bless you wherever you are, and shalom.